You just hit on something important. I think this is a good way to round off this conversation. You're talking about building up strong civil societies for these countries, especially the ones that are formerly under the boot heel of the old Soviet and trying to find their way under the new Russia, caught between the new Russia and the new EU. I think you just said something really important that we don't talk about, and it's universal to almost every country because look, the internet made everything global, whether you like it or not. Commerce and Amazon made everything global, whether you like it or not. You live in a global world. But you also have places like Russia who use nationalism to pitch subjugation. So at the same time, these countries, whether it's America or Romania or wherever, because we're struggling with this, you have to have this strong sense of healthy patriotism and love of your own country. But you also have to make sure that doesn't devolve into the darker parts of nationalism that history teaches us leads to all sorts of bad stuff. And you have to figure out a way to function in a global economy. That's a really great academic exercise when you're in a classroom to try to talk people through. It's so hard to do in real life. And it's really hard to do in an environment where the most engaged people in news and media are usually the ones with the most agenda, because otherwise they wouldn't be the most engaged. I think that's really kind of the struggle of our time, whether you're in the Baltic region or the American region or South America or Southeast Asia or wherever. How do you have a healthy love for your own people and your own country and still figure out how to be a global citizen that functions on the right side? And I don't mean political right. I mean the moral right, the historical right, doing the right things for the global world and for you and your family and community. I think that's really the struggle of our time, and we don't talk about it, but that's kind of at the heart of all this geopolitics we just got done discussing, whether you're in Romania or you're in America or wherever else.
True, and I would say that it's all the more the time for pro-European, pro-transatlantic conservative voices to take back this motive of patriotism from the pro-Kremlin political muppets of Putin, to take back this motive of healthy patriotism and to show that, at least in my part of the world, being a patriot can never be in the same sentence with being a person that is tied to Russia, whether it's through financial means or through political ambiguity or through strategic irresponsibility. For me, especially since I am a former history student and I trained during my university years to become a history teacher, think that you cannot let these false patriots to occupy the informational space. And to guard that, you need to have credible, sound, conservative voices that will expose them.
And how do we do that, Professor? Because that's because and you know the Western order, we use the terms liberal and conservative sort of interchangeably on some of that stuff, but just the people who understand, people who want more freedom, not less freedom, and the people who want less freedom so that they have more power. I think you kind of start with that metric first, and then you get into the policy and the politics and the economics and all the rest of it after that. If you just kind of stand back and go like, okay, is this going to make more people free and prosperous or less people free and prosperous? And then you kind of take that function, whether it's dealing with Russia or the EU or whatever the complicated matter of the day is, kind of take a basic principle, hold that up to it and go, well, let me start there, and then I'll start parsing through all this information.
The authorities should start with preserving the memory, the historical memory, and talking to the young generation about what communism and Nazism meant for Europe. The Czechs just banned communism as an ideology. I think it's a great example. Romania has banned it in 2006. We need more investment into education, and not only formal education, but also museums, cultural influencers being given the space to interact with the young generation, to develop these antibodies that are needed for a resilient society that will not let the proxies of Russia to tap into those nostalgism of the communist eras. And in addition to that, I think that it's a wider discussion on how we can make citizens trust the institutions better. And there is not one size fits all approach, but I think it should start through some minimal principles like transparency, respect for the money of the taxpayers, institutional proactiveness to the needs of the citizen. This should be the bare minimum for a social contract that is fair with the citizen and that will make him trust his fellow public servants in a way that will not let him be so easily trapped into the rhetoric of the people that want to make the apology of the communist regime, of the Soviet influence eras. And that should be the first steps, really.
And you just hit on the problem. The internal struggle is going to be dictatorships and oligarchies are one size fits all, and they always work. And representative democracies is messy and hard and really hard to get people to do. And that's the struggle, the eternal struggle. And you articulated so well.